Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Crypto Tips. My name is Toby.
My name is Heidi, and today we have a special episode. We're going to be reacting to Anthony Pompliano's video going over crypto passports. We haven't watched this yet, but
I've not seen it, but I heard it's good.
The Patreon member who requested it would like to know our thoughts on it because they know that we've actually gone through with this process. And if you didn't know that, we did. So, all right, let's get this going. So here we go.
People are getting a second passport, many people for tax reasons, right? Now, when I say that people are getting a second passport for taxes, there's a whole bunch of nuance here that's really important. First, the fastest way to increase your income is to pay less taxes. There are legal avenues to do this where if you understand how taxes work, you can drastically increase your income and take home more money. Remember, it's not how much money you make, it's how much money you take home, right? Not how much you make, how much do you keep? And being able to figure out how to reduce your tax bill is a very key piece of this. Wealthy people understand this more than almost anybody. We talked yesterday about Steve Ballmer paying a lower tax percentage than literally the concession worker at the stadium. Didn't do anything wrong. He just understands how to use the tax code to his advantage. That is one of the things that we're going to talk about continuously through the show.
So do all wealthy people.
Now, what this article talked about is a woman, Katie Anania, hopefully I'm saying that correctly, who's a former professional sailboat racer, raised in Russia, got a green card, moved to the U.S. in 2016, found Bitcoin, and all of a sudden, because Russia's currency dropped 50% in 2016, or in 2015, realized that it is likely that Bitcoin is going to be really valuable. She said, quote, "I was smart enough to figure out that $200 in Bitcoin will be worth $100K at some point. I don't think the government should have 40% of that," end quote. So she wanted to figure out a solution. Now, everyone hates paying taxes. I don't know anybody in the world that enjoys paying taxes. Now, there are people who don't mind doing it, right? In terms of they think it's part of their kind of American contribution to the country. It's part of their kind of commitment is, hey, America provided me so much, I'm happy to pay them these taxes that I legally owe them. But I don't see anybody paying the government more taxes than they owe. All these people always talk about raise the taxes, right? If you're so happy about paying more taxes, you can just contribute more. Just send them a check with a little bit extra in there, right? Why not? Nobody's going to do that, right? And so it's always this thing of like almost virtue signaling of, oh, we should all pay more taxes, but not, I'm not going to just like offer it up to them. Now, when you look at this, one of the strategies are these tax havens.
Not my money.
That's exactly what this kind of Plan B passport does. So where they help you get a tax, or they help you get a passport to one of these other countries. There's a whole bunch of different countries that you can do it in. I think there's 7 or 8 of them: Antigua, Barbados, Dominican, Grenada, Nevis, Portugal, St. Kitts, St. Lucia.
Not Portugal. You can't do that in Portugal. You have to essentially apply for a visa, a permanent visa. It's called a golden visa, and what you could do is you buy either €350,000 worth of historical real estate or €500,000 worth of regular real estate. But now they've come out with a law that says you cannot buy coastal cities anymore, or
highly populated.
And then after 5 years of that, then
there's real estate, there's an investment option, or if you start a business within certain parameters, then you can qualify for the golden visa. But what he's talking about, I think, is a program, obviously, that much like probably what Nomad Capitalist does, that helps people obtain second citizenships. But yeah, that's a very important point about Portugal, is that the golden visa is not a citizenship. It's a permanent residency status.
It can turn into a citizenship, but it's not a citizenship right away. It's actually after
you have to
5 years, I think.
Yeah, you have to maintain that investment and keep renewing your after 2 years, you renew your application or whatever. Or maybe after 1 year you renew it, and then after 2 years you renew it. And then from there you can apply for a passport. But yeah, you have to keep that investment for 5 years. And also, you can apply for citizenship, but you need to pass a language test, you need to speak Portuguese, and you need to prove that you have ties in Portugal. It's not as easy as St. Kitts, like what we did, where we didn't even have to go to the country to get the citizenship. With Portugal, you have to prove that you're actually interested in being a citizen of that, an actual citizen and participant in that country.
Let's keep watching.
Yeah.
Now, when you go to get this passport, it's basically pay to play, right? Pay to play can be
Portugal's on there again. It's not a passport.
Or it can be a way to incentivize action. That's all taxes are. Taxes are a way to incentivize activity, right? Charlie Munger, show me the incentives, I'll show you the outcome. Same thing here. So if you look just in the United States for a second, Puerto Rico, for example, has, I believe it's a 0% personal income tax and a 4% corporate tax rate, right? Or maybe I have those reversed, but basically almost 0% for corporate and individual, and capital gains as well. And so when you look at that, you start to realize, why are they doing that? Because they want to incentivize people to move there. They want to incentivize folks that care about taxes because they're rich, that are going to invest in the area, going to spend money in the area, et cetera. And so taxes become an incentive tool. Now, these countries said, well, you know what?
Yeah, so, okay, here's the thing, guys. Like, Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
It's a great place. You have to live there pretty much in order to be even a resident of that place, okay? And also, like, it's part of the U.S. Like, the government can change the rules at any time. So you're literally, it's kind of like, if you're looking to completely cut your ties or whatever, it's kind of like that psychotic girlfriend that you have, and then you want to break ties with her. You gotta just break it off and then leave. Don't go to Puerto Rico or whatever and think like, oh, I'm safe now. You're not safe because you're still under the jurisdiction of the U.S. government, the federal government. So they can do whatever they want. So that was when we were thinking of all of our options, that was an option for a split second, and then we realized that's not the best way to go about it. No, definitely not.
Also, what he's bringing up is an interesting concept that I love to see develop, and that is these countries that are essentially competing for your citizenship. And they're doing so because they see the value in bringing in people who have money to spend on their local economies. So, I mean, I think it's great. It's like instead of people, coming from countries that are heavily taxed and that money goes to really outrageous spending by governments, big, huge governments like the U.S., for example, in their military complex. And it's going towards the actual residents, and the people who are living in that country are going to benefit from this. And it's like a buyer's market. Obviously, it's going to take some money to become citizens in these investment opportunities, like citizenship by investment programs. But if investing in cryptocurrencies is probably the easiest way to meet that threshold that there's ever been. The barriers of entry for cryptocurrency are still incredibly low. You don't have to be an accredited investor to invest in a new upcoming cryptocurrency. There's a whole bunch of risk with that involved, and I'm not getting into that, but I'm just talking about the opportunities being presented to you as someone who's investing in cryptocurrencies to really, as a long-term plan, to benefit yourself and to, like he's saying, preserve your wealth by, getting taxed less. It's cool to see that there's these programs popping up everywhere, and I think it's getting more popular too.
Oh yeah, it's great.
Rather than say to American citizens, hey, we are part of the United States kind of dominance and geography, and you can come here with your U.S. passport, we need people to get a passport. And so take St. Lucia as an example. You can get a St. Lucia passport for $100K donation. You can do a $250,000 purchase of government bonds, or you can spend $300,000 on real estate. That's all you got to do. Like literally, you can just buy a piece of real estate for $300,000.
Okay, let me stop him right there. So we are in cryptocurrencies, all right? We are in Bitcoin. So would you rather spend $100,000 on just a donation and then keep $100,000 to $200,000, or even $100,000 to $200,000 to spend on Bitcoin? Like, why don't these countries will give the real estate option? They will be giving you very overpriced real estate. It's going to be incredibly hard to sell, and you're just like, why would you do that? You could just buy Bitcoin instead with the rest of that money. So that's why we donated the $150,000 for St. Kitts and Nevis. And I'm so glad we did that instead of buying I think it was $450 $50,000 real estate investment. So we did that around like $5,000 to $6,000 Bitcoin, and good thing we did, because now it's at 30.
Yeah.
30. So that's a crazy amount of gains that we got that we would have never gotten with putting into bonds or the real estate option.
Yeah, it's an opportunity cost.
Yeah.
And also, if you have the money to afford an investment program like this, you're going to be invested enough in crypto to see that recoup that loss. And also, it's much more than just shopping around for the cheapest citizenship by investment program, because this is like your passport, right? You want to have a solid program, a respected program. That's why we went with St. Kitts and Nevis, because it's been around since the 80s, and
we can
so
travel
40
around
something years,
140 countries around
164
the world. 164
countries,
yeah,
I
there you
think.
go.
And yeah, it's a very well respected program and passport to hold. So that was an easy one.
It is the longest lasting citizenship by investment program, which gives it the Lindy effect, which means that pretty much however long something lasts, it's
most likely to last at least that long again.
Yeah.
So basically, it builds on itself. Okay.
$300,000, you can get a St. Lucia passport, right? Or you can get $100K. You can make a $100K donation, or buy $250,000 worth of bonds. That's not that expensive, in my opinion, right? Given that most of these people are going to be ultra wealthy that are looking to do this. There is a secret to this whole thing, though. Here's the secret. In order for an American citizen to benefit from the tax regimes of these countries, you have to denounce your U.S. citizenship.
It's renounce. You're not denouncing your citizenship. You're
renouncing. That's annoying.
So you cannot simply get a second passport and then now all of a sudden say, oh, I have a St. Lucia passport, I don't owe U.S. taxes. The United States has one of the most overreaching tax regimes in the world,
true.
Right? That is what the rules are, right? I don't make the rules. Don't be mad at me. That's just what the rules are. If you're a U.S. citizen, you pay taxes no matter where you live in the world to the United States government. And so the only way to stop doing that is you have to denounce the U.S. citizenship. Now, a couple years ago, there's a gentleman, you guys don't even know the story, I don't think, named Eduardo Saverin. If that name rings familiar, he's one of the co-founders of Facebook. He denounced his U.S. citizenship, and he moved, I believe, to Singapore. And when he did that, he had a couple of billions of dollars. And I believe it was all unrealized in terms of it was in Facebook stock. But he was able to denounce his U.S. citizenship, no penalty, and he moved outside the United States, right? Well, they created a rule that very soon after, I would almost call it the Eduardo Saverin rule, that if you denounce your U.S. citizenship, they tax all of your assets at that time, what is it, 50%, I think?
No.
Where they hit you with a 50% tax rate on all assets that you basically hand over, and then you can leave, right? You can denounce that U.S. citizen.
No, that is not true at all.
It's not a guaranteed thing.
It's 30% on your global net worth if you are what you called a covered expatriate. And so a covered expatriate means that you are worth over $2 million, or you have earned $150,
160, something like this.
for the
$160,000 a year for the past 5 years.
Yeah.
If you've made that much money for the past 5 years at least, or you have a total net worth of over $2 million, then you will get hit with what's called the exit tax. If you're below that threshold, you don't have to pay that exit tax. All you have to pay is your normal, like every year on April 15, your normal tax return.
Yeah.
I mean, like, it's like your final tax return. It's a special form, but like you don't owe any extra money because you renounced if you fall below that threshold.
Yeah, and the third one is if you haven't been paying your taxes.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're going to renounce your citizenship, you have to
pay your taxes.
You have to be in line with your taxes. Yeah, you can't be like, oh, I didn't pay taxes for the past 10 years. I'm going to renounce and cut loose. No,
they will chase you around the world.
Absolutely.
Citizenship. So In order to benefit from any other tax regime in the world, you have to denounce your U.S. citizenship and then also pay this kind of like exit tax.
No.
Would you guys do it?
It's true about, if there are also tax cuts for you if you're not living in the U.S., but you're a U.S. citizen. Like if you're outside the U.S. for 11 months out of the year, you get a tax break of, like, let's say you're earning $100K a year.
I think it's 330 days out of the year.
Yeah, 11 months. It's like all but a month. Then you get like you don't get taxed unless you reach over that something like 100 or 150K a year. So there is that option. You don't have to. You can be tax free living outside the U.S. But
if you're making millions, then you're gonna have to pay a lot.
Yeah, and it's a headache, and it's for a country that you don't even live in anymore. For me, that's a huge thing. Yeah. Like, why would they tax people who aren't even living or working there?
It's for your freedom, Heidi.
Also, for someone else's freedom, because I'm very free. And also, living abroad with bank accounts and things like this, like Toby covered in his most recent video describing his renouncement and reasons why. I mentioned this too in mine when I made that video a while back as well, is if you're a U.S. citizen.
You can check them out up here.
Yeah, racer. Opening a bank account as a U.S. citizen in a foreign country is a headache for the bank. Maybe not for you, because for them, that bank, the regulatory pressure from the U.S. is on that bank. Yeah. That bank is going to have to do a lot of reporting. They're going to have to do it correctly. And if they do it incorrectly, the fine is massive, oftentimes much higher than any amount of money that you would be depositing into that bank anyway. So for them, a lot of times they're like, I'd rather not. So also conducting business, making investments in foreign countries is also incredibly difficult, because dealing with the U.S., again, the regulations there, it's a huge headache.
You still are, subject to Binance US. You're still subject to FTX.US, I think. Yeah,
and also also with that investment as a foreigner, let's say for the Golden Visa in Portugal, and you want to invest in the investment fund. The Golden Visa in Portugal requires that the money is coming from a foreign bank account. But if that money is coming from a U.S. bank account, the investment fund option is pretty much non-existent, because it's very difficult for them to deal with the regulations of the U.S. government regarding that. So fun times. So that's why we renounce, more so than even just the taxes. It's just like, to be able to pursue whatever life we want in a country that we choose.
I don't like paperwork.
Yeah.
It depends, right?
Ooh, you thought about it?
Well, I think it depends. So one of the examples they gave in the article was essentially, I forget who it was, I don't think they even mentioned the name, but they were like, I paid $130,000 to $150,000 for this service. I'm moving to one of the islands they mentioned, and they were like, it makes sense for me because it's less than 1% of all my crypto holdings, right? What I'm essentially going to gain on crypto. And I think when you think about it in numbers like that, it probably makes much more sense. But my question for you is more about, what would it take for you to do it? Where does Bitcoin have to go, or where do your assets have to go for you to consider doing that?
I would never denounce my U.S. citizenship.
But you would move to Puerto Rico?
Puerto Rico is a little bit different, because I think that's like a quality of life decision, right? Depending on where you live, what's the infrastructure like, what's the security situation, whatever. The reason why I would never denounce my U.S. citizenship has nothing to do with money, right? I would rather pay the money and keep the safety of the United States and keep that passport. If you kind of think about a U.S. passport in some crazy way, now this isn't exactly.
I don't think he's traveled much.
It's kind of like a get out of jail card, not for free, right? But get out of jail in terms of, God forbid something really, really bad happened to you. You got kidnapped in another country or something like that. U.S. is going to come get you, right?
What's he doing that he's going to get kidnapped? Like,
exactly.
This is the dumbest arguments I've ever.
The likelihood of that happening is so minuscule, because, first of all, the people who say they would keep their U.S. citizenship for this reason, he thinks that kidnapping is such a legitimate thing that could happen to him. He's never going to travel anyway. What? So why does he care about the strength of his passport?
He shouldn't walk outside, when it's raining, because he might get hit by lightning. Seriously, because he's got the same chances of that.
Not even. Okay. I think it's even more rare not to get kidnapped.
Yeah, guys, I've traveled to over 100 different countries in my life. I've never had any problems. Many of the countries that we've traveled to, we walk around at nighttime alone we are not worried whatsoever.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, it would be different if it was me alone, but with a man at least it's better. But
Portugal, like.
Oh, Portugal, forget about it. It's like the safest country in the world.
Even like Bali, like nobody's gonna bug you.
But this whole concept of this fear, right? That's why he'll never let go of his passport. Because there's a boogeyman out there that might kidnap him, and he needs Team America to come in and rescue him. That's ridiculous.
Pompliano, come on, man.
Yeah, exactly. Like what you said, like, what are you doing? What position are you in? And why waste so much tax dollars going to save your stupid butt because you did some stupid thing in a country you probably shouldn't have gone to in the first place.
Exactly.
And you think that you deserve it because you're a U.S. citizen. That is the type of attitude that people hate about Americans.
That's true.
They're just put on that pedestal. You do whatever you want because you get out of jail free card or get out of jail card, your passport.
That's actually not true at all either. If you do a crime in another country, you're going to have to deal with that. And depending on what it is, you're not getting out. I'm sorry if you don't have. It doesn't matter whether or not you have the U.S. government behind you or whatever. Like, no, come on, no. That's not how the world works.
It's like he thinks it's an immunity card or something.
Okay, let's move on.
Oh, I'm getting fired up.
And I think that there's like an advantage to that, right? On top of that, I think that there's a lot of advantages that are afforded to people who hold U.S. passports internationally.
False.
What? Have you heard of FACTA, my friend? The one where you have to proclaim every single bank account that you have. That's a foreign bank account.
Over $10,000.
Over $10,000. Otherwise, you get
creamed.
You get creamed, and the bank that has let you be their customer gets mega creamed. Give me a break, man. Like he's never. It doesn't seem like he's opened up a bank account overseas. It doesn't seem like he's.
It seems like he's heard a lot from the mainstream media about being a U.S. citizen. It doesn't seem
like he's traded on like Binance.com or like more freer, or like CoinList or something.
The only thing that's afforded you for being a U.S. citizen abroad is more headache, more red tape, less freedom. So congratulations.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and do you know all the tax implications that are coming down the pike now with Biden's tax implications? Yeah. Like, I mean, come on.
We'll wait for the day when he makes his renouncement video.
Yeah, exactly.
But more importantly there's a lot of problems in the United States. We got a lot of issues we got to deal with. But this is still the greatest country in the world.
Oh, right? My gosh. I'm going to stop this video. I can't watch it anymore.
Dude. Really, number 30-something in healthcare in the world.
What about education?
Oh, it's way up the list.
It's in the gutter.
Freedom of press, it's way down the list. I guess without backing this up with facts.
They got an American flag in the background there too.
Yeah, so I guess he's got his American proud crowd, but whatever.
There's no other country in the world where you can move there. Doesn't matter where you come from, what language you speak, your religion, your education, the amount of money you have, or anything, and you can build a life of wealth, happiness, and freedom. Yeah, right.
Taxes.
Yeah, taxes.
He started off this video saying how the people who are living paycheck to paycheck. There's a rich guy who paid less taxes than a custodian worker at a stadium. And he's saying that the people who move into the U.S. are afforded that great freedom. Of what?
Yeah, I don't know. Whatever.
I mean, he's probably right about like the job opportunities in the U.S., but I mean, we all do what we have to improve our lives. And I don't know. For someone at different stages of life, different stages of investment, it looks different for everyone.
It also depends on what you want to do in life. If you do want to revolve your life around cryptocurrencies, like we have, like being in the U.S. is one of the worst choices we could have ever made. I'm so glad we left because now I don't have to deal with, number one, taxes. That's great. Number two, I don't have to deal with Binance.us or that little square that the U.S. government decides to put you in as a U.S. citizen to punish you because they don't trust your investment choices.
Yeah.
And I mean, the list goes on. So no, and I don't want to have to keep hiring accountants to keep on top of all of these tax laws that Biden and their administration or whoever administration is coming out with.
Not to mention, like, this whole gray area with taxing crypto specifically, that's fine, but when you match that with the fear and the seriousness of something like the IRS, do you know how nervous people are that they're going to report their taxes wrong to the IRS as a U.S. citizen, and they're going to be hounded or have to pay so much more money because of that? Like, it's so fear-inducing, and
he's just parroting what he's heard before. You know, yeah, U.S. is the greatest country in the world. Yeah, America. But in reality, if you look down at the numbers, like, obviously America is not the freest country in the world. It's one of the least free Western nations in the world in terms of financial freedom.
I mean, clearly most of his audience is U.S. citizens.
Sure.
So.
And I think there's obviously things you can do within the U.S. to reduce your tax bill and certain things and accounting and stuff like that. But yeah, I think I would give up U.S. citizenship.
My general take on taxes has always been, you want to pay a reasonable amount of taxes. You just don't want to be the person who pays the highest amount of taxes. Right? Like, that must mean that you're not understanding how to use the tax law to your advantage. But at the same time, I have no problem. There's all kinds of benefits I get for paying my taxes, right?
Yeah, like using all that tax money to come save your stupid butt when you're doing stupid things abroad and you think you can get kidnapped and then it's all free, right? Because no. You're stealing from people for your
that's why we believe
your responsibility.
I believe taxation is theft, and that's why I don't want to be robbed every year of a giant portion of my income. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
In terms of, I drive on the roads, I use infrastructure, like
roads,
please, really?
That is the stupidest argument for taxes.
This is gonna be a long video, but like, give me a break. Like, roads. Okay, so the free market, it's too complicated for the free market to make a flat surface. Really, guys? Come on, give me a break. The road argument is he's parroting what he's heard.
SpaceX.
It's there's nothing back in this whatsoever. I mean, who made the combustible engine? Did the government or did the free market? You know, which is one of the most crazy technological innovations in the world, and the free market made that, so they can't make a flat surface.
Who invented the blockchain? Was that the free market?
Oh yeah, shoot, government didn't do that.
There's an element of we should all contribute, right? And we should all pay kind of a fair share. The question or the debate or controversy comes around, what is the fair share? How do you define fair share, right? And that's where you get into politics.
Well, let the government do it.
Nonsense.
Yeah, the government will handle it for you.
People want to pay zero. It's kind of like people in the stock market who are like, oh, I only made 200% last year. I really should have made 400%. It's like, hey, you made 200%. Like, you know, don't get greedy, right? What's the saying? Kind of pigs get slaughtered, right? Same thing here is like there's some folks who basically go out of their way and almost disrupt their life to some degree in order to pay 0% tax. To me, it's like, look, that seems a little crazy, and you see it with a lot of the wealthy folks. Like, you know, what Ballmer pays.
How dare you pursue your best life to get the most freedom that you can? Don't disrupt your life to get freedom. Just lay down and just be compliant and get what you get.
No, it's all right.
How dare you
because I can.
Who would actually take action to improve their life?
I mean, as you know, that you are probably more capable of making good choices with your finance than government has ever, and especially with a government that has $28 trillion in debt. They have the audacity to tell us how to spend our money, really, when they are $28 trillion in debt, not including unfunded liabilities and derivatives. Please.
To 12%?
Yeah.
Right? Pay $75 million in taxes. I'm sure that if he really wanted to, he has the financial means where he could go and do something else so that he could pay zero. But at his, wealth level, like, what's the difference between 0 and 12?
And I think a lot of these guys are probably super comfortable with paying whatever they're required to pay, right? Like, they're not fighting over what the requirement is. It's essentially, how can I get creative and avoid some of this to maximize my money? But I think the real issue comes in when you're living in a place with high taxes and you don't feel like the government is treating you right, or you don't feel like the resources are adequate for the amount of money you're paying and certain things like that.
So California.
Yeah, I wasn't going to go straight for San Francisco, but...
Okay, so that's it, guys. That was disappointing at the end. At the beginning, he had Pompliano made some really good points, but at the end he just he lost me.
Yeah.
So that's too bad. But whatever. You know, people have their own opinions, and renouncing isn't for everyone.
Yeah.
It is for us because I want to pay zero taxes for the rest of my life. I don't ever want to deal with that garbage. I have much better things to do, like teaching people, like being on this channel, showing people how to make changing profits off of their Bitcoin, and understanding this space, this beautiful space that takes government out, takes the state out of money. And that's the whole point of this, guys. So that's it, everyone. That's all we have to say about this. Yeah, stay disobedient, and talk to you soon.
Bye, guys.